First of all, I want to say it's a privilege to be a consultant to the North Georgia Annual Conference planning for worship. Any of you out there that are seeing this, you're going to have an extraordinary time, because I think the planning for these services is vital, it's deep, and so on. And part of what I know that Bishop Sue Halpert Johnson wants is a new appreciation of a whole process of planning well, prayerfully, a lot of scripture and a lot of thought about the context where we worship, celebrating well, and then reflecting on that. How does worship lead us into action in the world? And so you're going to see that, I think, played out in these services. The four principal services themselves sort of give us a kind of pattern of what should be going on in every congregation, every local church. Gathering, we must gather. We gather around the book. We gather around the font. We gather around the prayers and the song. So the first is the great gathering, and you're going to be very pleased. We're going to have an Ebenezer. Then we remember. And of course, what you do at annual conference every year is remember the people we've lost, the saints that have been with us. And so there'll be this service of remembrance, which I think most of you are familiar with, but this will have some very deep new things about it that have been planned. And then, of course, we're going to commission. That means ordination, but it also means thinking together about the mission of the whole church. As we ordain certain people, we realize that all of us are ordained by our baptism. And by the way, that's going to be at the beginning. Baptismal renewal from the very beginning. And then we are sent to the world, sent out to do the will of Jesus, to do what he did. And what that means is that we're going to hear about what he did. He fed, he reconciled, he spoke the truth, he was a prophet, he was a companion. So this is our message to the world, that this church is going to come alive by this worship in our particular conference in order that we may feed others, that we may reconcile others, that we may speak the truth, that we, yes, can risk prophecy in our time, and that's not an easy thing. So as you think of gathering, remembering, commissioning, and being sent out, that's the rhythm of the North Georgia Annual Conference this year. One of the interesting things about what we planned here is under the theme, Show Your Work, based on a text in Timothy. And that is to say, what we are going to spend are some time preparing the congregation by allowing them to see our preparation so that their participation is made more meaningful. So you'll find in each of these services, there'll be a little prep time in which we show our work of preparation. We've thought that this is something that every local church, whether you're a small rural church, a storefront church, or a very large wealthy church, every church can do what we're trying to model this year. We're already in the worshiping act. Jesus has promised to be with us. And insofar as we gather around him and do his liturgy, as it were, do his work in our service, then we're prepared to do his work in the world. And it's that connection back and forth that should excite us all. I mean, that's at the heart of things. Let me put it another way. Those of you who are familiar, of course, with something of the history of our celebration of the Lord's Supper, some of you call it Eucharist, Holy Communion. Think of the fourfold action at the table that we do. Take the bread and the cup. Bless. We say, blessed are you, God, for all of creation. Blessed are you for what these mean, this cup, this bread. And then we break the bread, just like Jesus did, Luke 24, everywhere else. And then we give the bread, or we share the bread. Take, bless, break, give, and share. Now that's a worship pattern, and you're going to see that. You're going to see that, and you're going to say, hey, that's at the center of the whole darn thing. Jesus is there, speaking and feeding and embracing and empowering with a word for the world. So those fourfold actions, I think you're going to see here, spread out over the days of annual conference. Of course, there are other worship services too, morning prayer and other times for Holy Communion. But think of that at the Holy Communion, where Jesus gives us himself and grace, he's giving us also action in the world. We are to be taken as a community of faith. We are to bless God for this life we have, creation, redemption, the hope of the world. Then we too, and here's the hard part, we're supposed to be broken open and poured out. And then what happens is the mystery of God's self-giving to the world becomes visible, palpable, kinetic, physical. That's us at our best. And that's what we're hoping you will experience during these days of annual conference worship here in North Georgia. Well, that's what I wanted to say to you. I hope you come with some of that in mind, but even above everything else, whatever happens at annual conference, this is a mandate for each of you, for the laity, for the clergy, for the musicians, for the people that take care of the spaces in our churches. This is our ministry. And everything is oriented to how well we glorify God in our worship and in our work. Thanks for listening.